The time is 1 p.m. We will now call this special public meeting of the Board of Trustees of Humble Independent. 12:03 p.m. We will now call this special public meeting of the Board of Trustees of Humble Independent School District to order. Moving to our first item of business, the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask everybody to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. We will now observe a moment of silence. May all be seated. The next item is public comment. The board encourages comments from citizens of the district or from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so following the procedure outlined on the agenda. The board asks that comments pertain to public education issues and be no longer than 2 minutes. For those of you who don't know, when we have over, what's the amount, Karen? Over 11, we reduce the time to 2 minutes. Okay, so I just want to make sure, we definitely want to hear everybody, but we have to reduce that to 2 minutes. Remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda for tonight's meeting. The board has adopted complaint policies that are designed to secure, at the lowest administrative level, a prompt and equitable resolution of complaints and concerns. Complaints brought by students or their parents, by employees, and by citizens may be heard in accordance with board policies. Each of these processes provides that if a resolution cannot be achieved administratively, the person may appeal the administrative decision to the board as a properly posted agenda item. Copies of our district policies on public participation in meetings and filing complaints are available on the Humble ISD website. I'll call on our first few, but I just wanted to make sure we know this is regarding both topics, very sensitive topics, right? Just want to make sure that we utilize professional decorum. 2 minutes from our public. We want to try to refrain from any outbursts or even sometimes the talk and the chatter. It can be disruptive for those that are trying to listen. So let's just try to remember that. First on the list of speakers from our public is Rebecca Burcham.
Hello, Humble ISD School Board of Trustees. My name is Rebecca Burcham. I'm here today to speak on behalf of all of the homeschooled kids who have to choose between homeschooling and access to UIL activities. I've been browsing the list of UIL competitions, and I saw a lot of things that I thought I would like, some of them being A+ academics and Battle of the Books. On top of this, I want to compete on a school sports team to get the experience and see what it feels like. I have a friend who is an excellent musician who would love to do band with his local public school, but can't because he is homeschooled. He has to drive almost an hour to do a once-a-week orchestra practice. If he could do it at a public school, he wouldn't have to drive so long, and he would be able to do it with his community. He would be able to practice more often with his group. My brother was really good at baseball and wanted to play on a team during middle school, but there was no option for him that was reasonably close to our house. I know another kid whose family has played football, and his family had to make a choice between homeschooling and football. I know another teenage girl who swims competitively and wants to be on a high school team. Her public school friends want her on their school team too. They already swim together on a club and summer league teams and know that she will be an asset to their team. They don't see her as a homeschooler, they see her as a teammate and friend. Furthermore, her only option for professional instruction is expensive. She is lucky, but sadly many homeschoolers are not and simply have to do without. Many people are given the unfair decision between their dreams and the education that fits their needs best. You have the power to change that tonight. I sincerely hope that you can give everyone the chance to follow their dreams and have the education that works best for them. Thank you for your time, and I hope you make the decision that benefits the most students.
Mr. Justin Lurie. Hey, Mr. Lurie, I do not like seeing that. I normally like seeing you nice and spry. We can't have hats. If you could just take that off, but hope you're feeling better, whatever happened. Yeah.
Basketball caught up with me. That's really what happened. I woke up and I'm 45. All right. Today, families in our district who choose a faith-based education are forced into a false choice: faith or football, chapel or cheerleading. Why must conviction and the desire for faith-based education disqualify participation? I know several members of this board share a deep commitment to their faith, as do I. And I hope we can view this issue through that shared lens of compassion and principle. This is not just about our district, it's about a system that has for decades held a near monopoly over large-scale extracurriculars like marching band and football. Public schools control the infrastructure, the rosters, and the rules. When Florida passed the Tim Tebow law in 1996, it gave non-enrolled students a path to compete. It proved that access and excellence can coexist. If this board opts out, we know what comes next. Waivers quietly granted when a star quarterback, pitcher, or point guard appears. Because exclusion was never about fairness, it was about control. Families who choose religious education are not second-class citizens. We pay taxes. We serve this community. Yet we're told our children cannot access the very programs we help fund, simply because of where they learn. I know you volunteer for this position, for your board seat, to help kids who reside in our district, not to help the entity that is the district itself. Please speak up for all of the kids and include all those kids who pursue a faith-based education too. Thank you.
And I want to make sure I pronounce this last name right. Cameron Perot or Cameron Parrott? Parrott, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Parrott, and I'm a rising senior at Atascocita High School. I'm also a returning officer for the Atascocita High School Theater Department. I know most people probably don't want to join theater, but it's what I do and what I care about. I speak to you today from a place, not from a place of exclusion, but from a place of deep love and concern for my specific UIL activity, for students, and for the values that make One Act Play such a powerful and transformative experience. Theater is not just a performance. It is a process, a journey, and a commitment to the demands more than the talent. It demands time, trust, and tenacity, and that is why I believe, with respect and concern, that home and private school students should not be allowed to participate in UIL theater activities. Let me be clear, this is not about ability. Many homeschool students are incredibly talented. But UIL theater is not just about who can act or sing or memorize lines. It's about who shows up day after day, morning into night, through exhaustion and setbacks and breakthroughs. As a public school student, I'm at school by 7 a.m., and I often don't leave until 6 p.m. on regular days or past midnight during show and contest weeks, only to face hours of homework from 5 AP classes as soon as I get home. I'm at theater through lunch, after school, and weekends. I sacrifice sleep, social time, and personal comfort because I believe in the power of the art form and the responsibility that comes with it. Meanwhile, a homeschool student, through no fault of their own, may have the flexibility to sleep in, to set their own schedule, which I believe is a significant advantage. That's not a criticism, it is simply reality. and in a subjective activity like theater, where casting decisions are based on trust, consistency, and proven dedication, that difference matters. Directors need to know their cast. We have a saying in AHS Theater, you're always auditioning.
Next, Miss Felicity Thompson.
Hello, my name is Felicity Thompson, and I am a student from Kingwood Park High School. I do not want homeschooled students to participate in UIL events. They are not enrolled in our school, and they don't take classes like our students. We are required to take 3 tests per 9 weeks, and there are 4 9 weeks in a year, which means we are taking 21 tests per 9 weeks and 84 tests in a year, which does not include state testing, AP testing, or PACTs and ACTs. Homeschooled students simply aren't meeting those requirements. We have to pass all of those tests to be able to participate in UIL events. Also, I do not want to see my fellow students miss out on an activity because of somebody who does not go to our school. There are only so many spots in our UIL events, and I believe those spots should go to somebody who participates in our school communities and who do their due diligence with their grades and who go to our schools. Their parents made the decision to keep them out of the school system. And by making that choice, they decided not to have all of the benefits that our public school students get. And it's wrong for them to reap all of the benefits of our system without actually going to our schools. Thank you.
Yes, next, Mr. Mark Krebs.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Krebs, and I'm a class of 1995 graduate of Kingwood High School. I was a member of the Kingwood Mighty Mustang Military Marching Band playing the trumpet. My experience in the band shaped me in ways that went far beyond music. It taught me discipline, leadership, and the value of being something bigger than myself. It also propelled me to marching in the Texas A&M band. Every student should have the chance to experience that type of growth and belonging, whether enrolled or not enrolled. I now have 2 children of my own that are non-enrolled students, and we've returned to Kingwood to raise them. Previously, they attended Willow Creek Elementary and for various reasons are currently homeschooling. While still young, they are both pianists, and I want them to have the opportunity to be in the band and follow in their father's footsteps and march for the pride of Kingwood, KM4B. 3 points I'd like to make today. First, I believe the opt-out clause in the bill is meant for districts where there is no interest in UIL. I ask you to consider whether you've seen interest from the community. Second, we want to thank you for listening to the community and taking the time to talk with us. Marcus in particular for allowing extra time this past week to gather more facts and make an informed decision. Many of you spoke with our folks, including Dr. Brown, which shows your dedication to the community. Third, the board appears to be lacking clarity around whether a school district is required to accept non-enrolled students from other districts. If you haven't received enough clarity around this, even in the light of the materials provided, I can see it as difficult to allow non-enrolled students until this is ironed out. I hope you have been able to fully vet this to the fullest extent possible, as well as believe this will have a material impact on the district. If that is the result of today's meeting, together I hope we can follow this as it progresses through the many districts that have already accepted non-enrolled students for several years that haven't had problems based on our research, as well as the districts that are beginning to accept non-enrolled students this year. Finally, I hope my emails and this dialogue show how important this is to my family, as well as to the others advocating on behalf of the community. If we can be of any help, please let us know. Thank you.
Yep. Next up, Miss Julie Riddle.
Good afternoon. My name is Julie Riddle. I am a homeschooling parent in this district. I'm here today to advocate to keep the statewide standard and allow homeschooled kids to participate in the UIL competitions. I would like to remind everyone that the state of Texas has granted us this right, and you are voting to deny it to us. First, this isn't just about sports or extracurricular activities. It's about strengthening our community. This measure gives families like mine a real, tangible buy-in to our public school systems. If your excuse or fear is that we are not invested, this is your chance to let us become invested. It is always a good thing for our community to have more skin in the game when it comes to our schools. Next, allowing students across our local community to compete will give us a greater competitive edge. By allowing students to try out, you are widening the pool of talent, especially in areas such as speech, theater, and debate. This is America. Aren't we supposed to be a land of opportunity? And that's all we're asking for, opportunity. Finally, concerns about cost and stretched resources are understandable, but they are not supported by evidence. For example, in Florida, the Florida High School Athletic Association has allowed homeschool participation for over 2 decades with no record of resources being overrun. What you will get is an injection of top-tier competitors, dedicated and active parent volunteers, eager to fundraise, work concessions, and support the programs. Allowing homeschoolers an opportunity to compete is not a radical experiment. It is a proven, successful policy that has been implemented successfully across the country. There are many existing models to ensure smooth integration. This is a win-win. It builds bridges, enhances our competitiveness, and strengthens the volunteer base. Please vote to create a stronger, more inclusive district for all our children. Thank you.
Mrs. Sarah Sanders.
Good afternoon. I'm going to read an email that I sent to all of you earlier. Since it was just last night, you might not have had a chance to read it. At the most recent board meeting, there was discussion and concern that allowing non-enrolled students to participate in UIL activities might obligate the district to also accept students who reside outside of Humble ISD. I want to help clarify this point using UIL's updated guidance, which were released July 8th, which specifically address this issue. From the UIL website, quote, "Schools that allow homeschool participation are not required to allow homeschool students from outside of their school district to participate in UIL activities for their schools. The law allows it, but does not require it." Further on the same page in the FAQ section, quote, "My ISD allows homeschool participation, but the neighboring ISD does not. Are we required to allow homeschool students who do not reside in our attendance zone to participate? The answer is no. The law would allow your ISD to permit such participation, but would not require it of those students who do not reside in your ISD attendance zone. UIL can legally make this rule because Section E1 of the new law states the student may participate in league activity for the closest school. Using the word may demonstrates the ability, but not the requirement. Thus, the rules written by UIL have full authority on the matter and align with the new law. This confirms that Humble ISD is not required to allow non-enrolled students from outside the district to participate. You are allowed to permit participation for non-enrolled students who reside in Humble ISD without opening the door for out-of-district students. I would also like to remind you of the numbers reported from other school districts mentioned by Rachel. We expect numbers to be low, so this should not overwhelm the school districts. The most reported in any school district is 11. We're talking small numbers. I really don't think this is going to overwhelm the system. I hope this information helps clear up any misunderstanding from the meeting. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of the issue.
Miss Melissa Perry.
Hello, my name is Melissa Perry. I'm a retired public school teacher and a present public school advocate with a passion for fairness. I'm speaking today to oppose allowing unenrolled students to participate in UIL activities. Yes, homeschool and private school parents pay taxes, but you do not forget they decided that utilizing that public education afforded them through those taxes was not a good fit for their child. I respect that decision, and I am truly love that we live in a society that allows them to make it. But with decisions come consequences. Opting out of public education should not also include opting into UIL activities. I think there's a misconception that UIL activities are a standalone part of public education, while in actuality they are a vital and vibrant thread in the tapestry that makes up the whole school experience. And by pulling that thread, the tapestry will unravel. The whole experience is woven together to create a beautiful finished product. I understand you all care deeply for all children, as do I, but ripping apart the public school tapestry, in my opinion, will not help the unenrolled student. Trust me, I am very unhappy with the district's math curriculum and would love to homeschool my daughter for math only and then utilize the schools for everything else. But of course that is absurd, and for a very good reason. Public school parents do not get to pick which subjects are worthy of their child's attendance. Therefore, unenrolled parents should not have that same opportunity. I would greatly appreciate your vote today to opt out of allowing UIL participation for unenrolled students. Thank you.
Mrs. Rachel Gonzalez.
The dangers in having a common name. Good afternoon, President Holmes, board members, and fellow community members. In addressing the vote if non-enrolled students should be allowed to participate in UIL activities, one of the arguments we've just heard, is not fair to current enrolled students. What if a non-enrolled student takes the place of one of the enrolled students on a team, in a chair, band, or like one of our other young ladies spoke to? I like to answer this question with a question. Why do we have competitive events for students from an educational perspective? It's because we know how competition builds resilience, character, growth mindset, and is a powerful motivator to improve skills in sports and the arts. It brings out the best in us, and some of our most cherished moments are forged on the field or the stage. We need this in our society and our community. By its very nature, UIL activities are competition. We should want to represent the best that Humble has to offer. And for the few non-enrolled students who do wish to participate, and like Sarah said, maybe 11, and the off chance they do happen to bump an enrolled student, then that student has all the more motivation to work and get better. Just like if one enrolled student bumped another enrolled student, we're all students of Humble. I experienced the benefits of competition firsthand, attending the top music school on the West Coast. It was a fishbowl for sure. But that competition pushed me to be the best musician I could be, and I wouldn't have had the opportunities post-graduation if it weren't for that competition. Competition isn't bad. It's inherent in UIL activities, and it's why we do them. This could bring our community together in a new way. And with the $1,500 per student per activity, it has the potential to strengthen the programs that get a non-enrolled student by adding funds to make those programs better. Say the theater gets 2 non-enrolled students. That's $3,000. What would that mean for the theater program? Everyone wins, and we already have 37 states that are doing it, and everyone's winning. Thank you for your time.
Tracy Shannon.
Greetings, board members. We are here again discussing this issue because the board was not prepared last time it took it up. Despite this legislation having been signed into law a month ago and working its way through the legislature since March, this bill opposed by TASB and TAZA has been on their watch list the entire legislative session. The lack of preparedness highlights the need to provide the agenda more than 72 hours before board meetings. This indecisiveness has led to adults in this community pitting community members against others and sadly targeting children. Some think it is not fair to include all kids because some kids are not governed by the same bureaucracy. What is unfair is excluding students who are lawfully educated and whose parents pay for the activities they are excluded from. For most of the 500-plus homeschooling families, it will be impractical to go to public school for an activity 5 days a week. Moms are busy shuttling multiple kids already. You actually have to be home to homeschool. But for a few who live closer to a school or who have only one child in the household who would like to join swimming, mariachi band, step dance, debate, or orchestra, it would be a game changer, especially if that child is in a low-income household. 50% of the homeschool community is low income. Homeschool students have to pass, they have to take standardized tests, and are subject to UIL rules preventing private training during school hours. Everyone has freedom to choose how to be educated. Y'all means all, and that includes homeschoolers. Thank you.
Mr. Joseph McCrate.
Hello, my name is Joseph McCrate. I'm an incoming senior at Kingwood High School. This last year, I was ranked 11th in the state on my instrument. This was in a process that is not UIL, but it is through an external thing called TMEA. With TMEA, they allowed homeschooled and private schooled kids to participate. As an action of this, there were 3 students above me that were not a part of public education. Of course, these students are amazing musicians and deserve to be there, but they have opportunities that we do not. They have options to go up to this boarding school, which is the main one they all attend, in Indiana called the Interlochen Arts Academy. So what they do, they stay there, then they fly down for the region and all-state process. If we allow this to be implemented into UIL, then we're going to have students that were deserving to be a part of this, that were taken out of this activity because of people who are not in our region or area or district because they choose to not be, and they boot people out who chose to be there. If the students choose to not be a part of our district, they should not get to be a part of our benefits. Thank you.
Mrs. Natalie Bullen.
Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Bullen, and I am a homeschool parent who's resided in the district for the past 8 years. And I'm here today to encourage you all to keep the default opt-in for UIL participation. This is all in the bill, but I know there's been some confusion, so I just want to clarify for the record before you all make your vote. This bill requires homeschooled students to follow the same exact standards that public school students have to follow to participate in UIL activities with regard to grades, progress, testing, and accountability. Parents pay the same exact taxes when their children are homeschooled that parents of children attending the schools have. And there's no real threat from students in other districts infiltrating Humble ISD if you allow us to remain opted into this, because you have the ability to prohibit that. With all of that being said, it's really hard for me to identify why you all would know that and know that this doesn't pose any real risk for the district and only benefits children within the district, and then choose to vote against it. As you can see from the progression of these UIL homeschool bills that have came through the Texas House and Senate, the legislature obviously feels like it is important for Texans and their rights to increase access.
which is why they went from the default status being opt-out to opt-in, because our Texas legislature appreciates that this is a right that our students should have access to. I know change is scary, but this is also not a permanent decision that you have to make. You get to make it every single year. So please allow our students the opportunity to participate in these events, and if it doesn't work, you can always change your mind. Is that telling me to stop?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Miss Aubrey McDonald.
Good afternoon. My name is Aubrey McDonald. I am a senior at Atascocita High School and a member of our UIL theater company. Today, I ask the board to opt out of allowing unenrolled students to participate in UIL events. My argument on this subject is that allowing unenrolled students to participate in UIL would be unfair for all parties involved. Firstly, it would be unfair to the teachers and the administrators. It'd be a logistical nightmare. How do you discipline a student that's only there for one period? How do we maintain our security measures with students arriving throughout the day? It is unfair to teachers and it is unfair to the schools. It is also unfair to the enrolled students who have to meet strict requirements like pass to play and various conduct policies like no D-halls and no suspensions, something that a homeschool student doesn't have. But most importantly, it is unfair to the unenrolled students. As someone with experience in UIL, I know this student would feel alienated and isolated because they share little in common with their peers. For example, they won't have similar classes or school spirit to use as a common ground with the other students. It's not fair to place them into tight-knit, highly competitive departments with little to no experience in public school. I want to reiterate that we do not have a problem with homeschoolers or the decision to not have your child enrolled in public school. But I have to ask, why go through all the effort to homeschool your student just to put them back into a public school class? Doesn't that sound hypocritical and ultimately unfair? I end by asking the board to listen to its students, the same ones they are supposed to act in the best interest of. Thank you for your time.
Rachel Burcham.
Hello, my name is Rachel Burcham. I'd like to start by thanking you all for voting to take the time to further understand this issue and how it could be implemented in Humble ISD. Some main concerns that we've heard over and over again are the fairness of academic standards and how this could be a burden to the system. First, let's talk about fairness. The UIL establishes academic standards both for public school and for non-enrolled students. A starting point each year, the homeschoolers before the first day of school must submit a standardized normed test showing that they are on the grade level with their peers. This test is going to be taken by the homeschoolers outside of school time and paid for by the homeschoolers' families and submitted to the district. And then let's talk about grades. I know it can seem a little bit suspicious that the parents are giving their students grades, but as this whole section can attest to, yes, we do take tests, we do take quizzes, and no one is really more concerned with ensuring that the students learn the material than the mom. I love my kids. I do not want them living in my basement whenever they are 30 years old because they can't get a job. I want to make sure that they are truly learning the material, and giving them inflated grades would not do that. Now, these grade reports, they're good enough for colleges. Homeschooled students get into colleges all the time by submitting standardized testings and homeschooled grade transcripts. If these transcripts are good enough for Baylor University, which I attended with a homeschool transcript many, many years ago, if they're good enough for UIL standards, I think they're good enough for our local middle schools and high schools to prove that we are meeting academic standards. Let's look at the numbers, though. So we were able to get some numbers in the last few days over the districts in Texas that are currently allowing outside students. The largest school district that we were able to get in contact with was Hutto. It had 6 Another one had 3, and another one that had the most was 11. So we'd like you to consider allowing access to all students in the district. Thank you.
And last, but certainly not least, Ms. Bethany Thompson.
My name is Bethany Thompson, and I am a parent of 3 enrolled students of Humble ISD and a former homeschooler. Homeschooling families already have the opportunity to participate in UIL within Humble ISD. They just need to enroll. A once-a-year normative test and generic letter saying their children are passing are not the same as the eligibility requirements for our public school students. Texas law only requires families who homeschool to teach spelling, reading, grammar, mathematics, and a course on good citizenship. This is nowhere near the requirements on Texas public schools. Our students are tested to death and work hard to participate in UIL. If there were unlimited spots in our UIL activities, I'd be all for including non-enrolled students. But that isn't the case. Allowing non-enrolled students to participate in UIL is unfair to the students already attending our schools. If they want their children to participate and represent our schools, then they're welcome to enroll and join us. Once again, the eligibility requirements for non-enrolled students do not compare to the requirements on our public school students. Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you, all the students. It takes a lot to come up here and look at a bunch of sometimes stone-faced adults, so I want to say thank you for that. Also to the myriad of calls that I think probably all of us have fielded, and emails and conversations, just listening to the community. Thank you, community, for trying to make us aware and raise our IQ on this subject. I wanted to ask this, asking the board, being that we just touched on this UIL discussion, if I could go ahead and actually move to discuss revisions to board policies, FD local and FM local, would you guys be okay with that? It's nothing, I already ran it by Mr. The attorney. I just want to be able to discuss that now, being that we're all here in the room. Is that okay? And we'll come back and circle back to 3A. But I'd like to go ahead. Is that okay, guys? Thank you. Yeah, just want to be professional courtesy. All right, so next up on the agenda then is going to be item 3B, revisions to board policies FD local and FM local. Do I have a motion, Mr. Silva?
Yes, Mr. President. I move to approve and adopt board policies FD local and FM local.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Scarfo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. First, I actually had a call with the author of the bill this morning because I'm not clear on some of the things UIL is saying. And I just want to clarify to me, in E1, it's where a speaker spoke about this, where it says the student may participate in a league activity for the closest school. I read that as that's the student's choice. That doesn't give a district who opts in to allow unenrolled students to participate, that doesn't give them the right to say no to students outside of their district. At least that's how I read it. And I'd like to get some clarification on that because that's a really big point. And what he said to me, and here's another thing that I'd really like to get clarification on. He told me the UIL can interpret that however they want. I know they interpret rules and set rules, but I just don't know. I would want to see, you could say I'm from Missouri, but I would like to see where that is. Can we get something from the Attorney General or TEA that says, oh yeah, they can interpret that to mean that a district who opts in can keep unenrolled students from outside their district from participating. Because that's a big crux of that whole part. And that, I'm hung up on that part too. The other thing too is I would like to see, what would be submitted to monitor student eligibility in terms of attendance, the test scoring. Of course, to me, a once-a-year test, that doesn't cut it, because our kids, and I got to tell you, the comments by Miss Parrott, is that how you say her last name? Parrott, okay, and Miss McDonald, I think those are very telling, and that makes a lot of sense to me also on the other side of the issue. And there's no getting around that, because that concerns me. I've put many hours into thinking about this and studying the issue and asking questions, talking to different people and legislators. But that's a real concern about the bonding and the cohesion of students coming into an activity. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's soccer or whether it's theater arts. It's all of those things. So that's an issue in my mind about this. And then, as I said, I'd like to see what would be submitted. How do we assure academic compliance and attendance? And then what happens from a discipline standpoint? Other than removing the student from the activity, and one of the student speakers raised this same point, would they be subject to our student code of conduct? I would believe yes, and would the parent sign that acknowledgement form? But there's really no discipline. You can't tell one of the unenrolled students who's participating, well, you got to come to, at least I don't think you can, you got to come to Saturday D Hall because of something you did during that activity. Maybe you can, I don't know. But there's just still lots of questions on the moving parts. And I told Mr. Frank, the author, I said, I don't really think you thought through the practicality of what you're allowing. And how many districts did you really talk to about how you would implement this if you did move forward? And I get the argument of, hey, all students in our district, particularly our district, have a right to participate. But there's a way to do that too. They can enroll in the district. That's a choice. And other than the uber wealthy, all the rest of us do have to make choices. And you choose one thing, it may limit your ability for another. Okay? And look at our students at Sconzo Early College High School. They give up UIL. We've tried to figure out, but there's no way to allow them to participate in UIL because of their academic schedule. But they make that choice, and they're okay with that. So I'm still here struggling with not really having all of the information I need, because I'm not buying into the fact that we as a district, we opt in, can say no to everybody else outside our district, because that's not how I read this. And I'd like to also really understand and get confirmation, as I said, I don't want to start repeating myself, from the AG, the TEA, about what, in fact, UIL Executive Committee can do. Can they really say that? If they can, okay, I need to know that. And I would like to see the apparatus we'd have to put in place to monitor those students, the unenrolled students who are going to participate. And let's just keep it for our district in my discussion of this right now. So I'd like to see some of those things. And I don't want to, I'm not one to kick the can down the road, but I'm wondering about, should we try to gather some more information and get some real hard facts and explanations before we make a decision? Although we can vote this afternoon now and say we're opting out, it's not set in stone. It's a policy that can be changed later on. Most can, and there's only a few that can't. So I'm almost inclined to suggest we table it. I know the administration will hate me for that because they'd like to move on, and I get all that. But unlike the personal communication device policy that we're going to discuss and vote on, I don't think we're under the same pressure on this one, that we probably could wait a couple more weeks, because I just right now have a hard time voting for or against, because I don't have those answers that I think are really relevant and pertinent to this decision, because it's not an easy one. Some people might think, oh, well, you know, just opt out, or, oh, opt in. It's just real easy. It's not. There's a lot of moving parts, and as I said to Mr. Frank, and I'm repeating myself, you guys didn't look into the practicality of doing it. It's, you know, one of those things, you know, good intentions, and we know all the adage, you know, what the road to hell is paved with. So that's where I sit right now. And maybe from the rest of the discussion, I'll move one way or the other, but I'm inclined to say, Mr. President, we should just hold off just a little bit longer, because I think those are important issues that we need to get clarity from, and we don't have that. And thank you for all the speakers. Thank you for your, on all sides of the issue, our students, our parents. Thank you so much for just what a great job that you did in presenting your cases. It was very civil, a very thought-out debate and discussion. So I really appreciate that, because that doesn't happen all the time. And also appreciate the 7 of us have to make a decision, and we're going to tick some people off on one side if we vote one way, obviously, and another group on the other side. And I know there's been some emails where there's kind of been threats, and I don't abide threats too well, to say, oh, we go out and vote. We're going to go vote, and if you don't follow us, we're going to vote you out of office. Okay, that's the American way. That's democracy. You know, I've won elections, lost elections, and that's just the way how it goes. But you got to do what you believe is right. And I'm just struggling right now with, can I cross the line yet because of what I raised? And I will stop there, Mr. President. Thank you for the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Grabowski.
Counselor, can I ask you some questions, please? There is a lot of ambiguity out there, that is for sure, but you wrote us a very detailed letter and sent it to us, the 7 of us, last night. Thank you for all the work you've put in, because if you spent 4 or 5 phone calls from Grabowski, I can't imagine how many phone calls you have received. This is a very, very passionate issue, obviously. What you can share of the letter you sent to us, can you please share with the public?
Yes, sir. And I don't want to get too deep into attorney-client privilege. I don't want to accidentally waive that privilege. I think if it's okay, I'm going to start with a couple of the questions that Mr. Scarfo had. The unfortunate reality of this bill is that, and I appreciate, you know, the legislature was very busy this past session. They had a lot going on. I do kind of wish the bill could have been more artfully written. There's a lot of ambiguity in it. There is a lot of underlying complexity to it that I don't think was intended or was thought of when the bill was being written. But UIL's interpretation, and what authority does UIL have to interpret a statute? UIL can interpret their own rules. They have authority to do that. UIL's interpretation of the statute would not trump or overrule a court's interpretation of the statute. That is ultimately who interprets statute. I think the individuals in this room, I'm sure, would be very pleased if the district allowed non-enrolled student participation, but only for residential or students who live within our boundaries. However, there's going to be a whole lot of individuals who are motivated to challenge that. And I do think going that direction, which is not a direction that I'm aware of any other school districts going. That doesn't mean that we won't see some go that direction, but I'm currently not aware of any other school districts who are going that direction, including, I had the opportunity, I was at a legislative update on Friday in Austin with approximately 150 school lawyers who only represent school districts or our general councils or represent public, charter, and private school districts. And so far, no one in the room had heard of that interpretation or considered it to be a necessarily valid interpretation or could speak to how UIL came to that interpretation. We did have some individuals contact UIL directly UIL offered that they interpreted that way to provide school districts with the most local authority that they could provide. But again, there's nothing there that shows that UIL has the basis for making that interpretation, or that interpretation would carry any weight with the courts. That's not to say it won't. A court might find UIL's interpretation persuasive. A court might not. A court might not find my interpretation persuasive. I want to be very candid in that. There is not a clear, right answer here or correct interpretation of the statute at this time. I do think potentially allowing some opportunity to gain that clarity would be good. Mr. Scarfo mentioned seeking an opinion from the Attorney General. As a school district, we cannot directly seek an opinion from the Attorney General, but I do believe we have enough contacts and connections within Humble ISD that we could certainly find someone who is allowed to seek such an interpretation and ask them to submit it on our behalf. The timing of that, though, is an unknown. We could get it back within 2 or 3 weeks. We could get it back within 45 days. We could get it back within 60 days. It really depends on what else the Attorney General has going on. If the Attorney General chooses to even respond to that request for opinion, and how long it takes him to go through it and write it as well. And so we do have a deadline. If we're going to opt out, the district must do so by September 1. Otherwise, we have opted in.
Okay, thank you. So just to recap some of that, we have until the 1st of September to make a decision, or we automatically get opted in.
Yes.
Correct. The Attorney General's opinion would be the overriding legal decision maker in this case, that if we follow UIL's interpretation and later on the Attorney General is in opposition to the UIL, we could have opted into a program where we have now opened the door to numerous districts. Because if we let me give you this scenario. If we opt in to allow it to just Humble ISD residents, which the UIL is saying is okay, but the Attorney General then is in conflict with that UIL statement. Am I hearing you right that we open the door for Humble ISD for numerous legal issues? Possibly.
To respond to the spirit of your question, yes, potentially. So I think what would happen is if the district opts in but restricts that, I'm going to speak in terms of opt-in because I think that's what we all understand here. We know that it's a default, you're in unless you opt out. But if everybody will bear with me, I'm going to speak in terms of opting in or opting out just so that we're all clear on what's being said. So if the district opts in for residential students but not for non-residential students, should a court ultimately determine that that is not an appropriate interpretation and that we're not allowed to do that, we are then stuck with the opt-in for everyone. You can only change it once a year. Currently, that deadline is September 1. In future years, it will be August 1. And so you could change from an opt-in to an opt-out. You could change from an opt-out to an opt-in. And I say that because I want to give the board the most candid and neutral advice that I can. I'm going to be a little hyper-technical for a minute. The Attorney General's opinion is certainly going to carry a lot more persuasive authority and weight with the court. Ultimately, though, the courts do have the final say in interpreting statutes. Courts won't provide advisory opinions. It doesn't happen. They're not allowed to do it. So we can't go to a judge and say, "Judge, how would you rule on this?" He'd say, "Well, if you get sued, I'll let you know then." But the Attorney General can provide advisory opinions to certain individuals. And so we would have to find one of those individuals who's willing to submit the request on our behalf. I do think there is interest in potentially doing that. I will say in researching this, I did have some great communications with the Texas Homeschool Coalition. They were amazing to work with and to speak to, very, very pleasant, and it may be that we could even partner in trying to get this answer, because I do think it's going to be an answer that's going to affect the homeschool community one way or another. Your students who are residents within Humble, may be okay with one thing, but your non-resident students in surrounding districts may not be okay with that. And so I think this is going to be a question that both homeschool, non-resident, and public schools want to know the answer to. I'm not convinced that we would have an answer before September 1.
But there is a possibility, because earlier you were saying it could be as quick as 2 to 3 weeks, or it could be 2 to 3 months, or it could be longer even. Is there a possibility we could have this decision from the Attorney General, or his opinion, or their opinion, by the next school board meeting? I know I'm just asking, it's a possibility?
I can't say it's not a possibility. I mean, I think if we submitted a request for an opinion on a mask mandate, we'd have that within a week, right? We know like that's a hard no. If it was, there was another example that was in my head a little bit ago. There are certain things that we know are going to be very fast opinions that are ready to be answered. I'm not sure that this one has risen to the level that it's really been reviewed by that many people. And I mean, to be fair, to be candid, there are some districts that maybe don't want to go down that road of understanding it because it may change the outcome of what those districts decide to do. I do appreciate the very thoughtful questions that have come up from this board and that have been asked, but I can't say whether it's a possibility or not. When we submit a request for opinion on a TPIA or a public information request, it's 45 days. I would kind of anticipate that being the baseline, but I can't say for sure.
Okay, because then I'm kind of agree with Mr. Scarfo when he said that I don't think we have enough information yet to make an informed decision until we get what the Attorney General says. And if we can delay this and as close to the 1st of September as possible, we have a shot at getting a good advisory opinion. And until we have that, I don't know how to vote yes or no. That's how I feel. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Grabowski. Anyone else?
I think school starts August 13th, right? And that's what we're in the second week of August. And I would like for us as a board to, we need to get to a decision of either opting out or opting in, right? And tabling this discussion for September, October, November is not in fairness in any way to our administration, our staff, our schools, our teachers who have to plan their UIL activity or the coaches who have to plan. Most sports teams have already made their teams, right, for the year, as well as there's lots of things that go into play. It's not just a one-size-fits-all. And so we don't have enough information. And first of all, I want to thank everybody that came out. Great discussions by the students in our district, families in our district that are enrolled students, great discussions by the homeschool community that are non-enrolled students right now. Thank you for taking the time to thoughtfully think through this and do all the research that you've done. I appreciate that because that has been a great dialogue for us. And I think we are in a stage of making a decision of either opting out or opting in and making that decision today. And putting a pause on this to better understand what that scope looks like for next year and the year after. What happens next year and the year after? Maybe they write the bill a little bit better. Maybe they come back with something that is a stronger in the writing, right? And because you've had a lot of districts that are doing that. To my knowledge, I've also reached out to a lot of our school districts in the local area of Houston, as well as some of our districts where our family lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and a lot are pausing on this. They're not making that decision this year, but they're looking at teaming with their homeschool community and coming up with what does that look like? What is the feasibility study of this? What data do we need to make an informed decision and not just throw a decision onto our campuses today? I also want us to think about from a perspective of cultural change in our district today. We are about to roll out one of the largest cultural changes in our district without a pilot. We're just going to say, hey, buddies, we didn't pilot the cell phone thing, but we're going to roll it out, and we're going into removal of all PCD devices and taking the dopamine addiction off of our kids, and we're going to go for it. And that's good. I think that's a good thing. But that's a huge cultural change already to our campus with a lot of oversight and a lot of structure and a lot of engagement that has to happen throughout the school day. So adding on another piece of cultural change may be too much for our school district, and I'm just going to put that out there. The other thing, I think, on the fairness and oversight that must be ensured is we have to look at what those clear eligibility rules. It goes beyond just being eligible on grades. I've had 3 students go through Humble ISD from start to finish. My last student will be going through as her senior year at Kingwood High School. All 3 of my students participated in every UIL activity almost, I think, from fine arts to debate to sports. I have 1 student that played almost every sport. So I understand the nuances that go into it, and it is a culture of UIL. It's not just I show up for football practice and I'm on the football team. It's how am I in the building all day? How am I a leader all day? How am I integrated into the spirit of the school? So we've got to think about it in terms of that. And I think I want to understand, we've got to come up with a philosophy if we do opt in someday, what does that look like for our homeschool students? And how do they integrate into that activity? And then the last thing I think is funding realities. I haven't heard, I know that the district is giving $1,500, but we're at a shortage, right? I think it's something like $13,000 or more per student to actually educate a kid, of which we get a basic allotment of like $6,000 to $7,000. And now we're just, for the homeschool non-enrolled kid, we're going to be getting $1,500. Does that cover the cost of that person being in a class 5 days a week, being in a sport 5 days a week with all the transportation costs, the coaching costs, the extra costs for teachers, resources? I don't know. We don't have that information. So I'd love for us as a board to make a decision and stand by that decision, as other districts are doing, to either opt out or opt in, and table the discussion for future years doing the right feasibility study before we make a decision.
Mr. Kirchhoffer.
I agree. I think we should vote. And, I appreciate and echo my board members' comments. I appreciate everybody that's here. But we need to vote, and we've got other things to attend to.
Can I, and then I'll give the seat to you, Mr. Scarfo. I just wanted to say one thing as well, just a few points. I talked to Mr. James Frank, the gentleman the representative that presented this to the state last night, and I've took a lot of things into consideration. I've waffled as well. I don't know. One thing is for sure, I have a passion for all students. I was voted in to make sure that I'm doing all of what I can do from a managerial, right, a governance standpoint for Humble ISD. I think for me, I agree with actually everything that my fellow board members have shared. And there was some even interesting data points that I got from Mr. James Frank, which was really interesting, is that I think it was state of Arizona, I believe. I think it was 1 out of 3 students that homeschooled or non-enrolled students that enrolled in UIL actually ended up enrolling in the actual school district. So that was a very interesting statistics. But I also noticed that only 49 school districts in Texas, which is 5% of the total amount of school districts, have actually opted in for this. So I'm in partnership and in concert with the rest of the board members. There are some definitive things that are just not there yet. I need a little bit more clarity. I know which way I'm going to vote, and it's going to be that we opt out for now and that we come back once we have a little bit more definition where we can really vote in the affirmative. But I can't make a really good decision, and I really need some legal opinions and context around that language. So I'm in favor as well, opting out. Yes, Mr. Scarfo.
Okay, I was going to suggest that we table this till the August board meeting and possibly get some more clarification. As I said, I'd like to see how this would work in terms of eligibility for unenrolled kids, students who are going to participate. I'd like to find out and see. I'd like to see the UIL's executive committee's rationale for why they're interpreting this way. Maybe I'll agree with it. Right now, I read it and I can't agree with it, and I think our councils have said the same thing. So that's a problem for me. And then the other issues that were brought up, again, by our students, that's a big part to this. And again, I don't want to kick the can down the road, but I would make a motion that we table this till the August 15th, whatever date that is, 11th or August 12th? Yeah, to the August 12th meeting. And maybe we can get that clarity, and maybe we could have some more discussions with the folks who are impacted on both sides. Because I'd like to see some of those things clarified for me, so I can raise my hand and feel comfortable. Okay, I thought through everything possible. So my motion, Mr. President, is to table this current motion.
Second.
What is the motion?
To table the motion that's on the.
So did you, okay, so who said the motion? Is Oscar said you actually said the motion? No?
No, Mr. Scarfo made a motion to table.
So the motion is to table the discussion to the August 15th meeting to then do the vote. August 12th, sorry.
To have it on the agenda for that meeting. It's on the table. It doesn't have to be discussed at that one, but we have to decide by September 1st, or it's decided for us, so obviously.
And I think that probably is there a caveat that is if we have that legal opinion back by then, right? Or, I know we have to make a decision, but, Jeremy?
I mean, we really can't discuss.
I mean, I think,
Mr. Binkley.
I think Mr. Scarfo's motion is appropriate,
Okay.
If the board chooses to do that, because it's going to need to be discussed one way or another.
All right. All those in favor of tabling this until the August 12th board meeting? All those opposed?
Motion fails.
Motion fails. All right. Now, Mr. Binkley,
Back to the motion.
we got to go back to the original motion. So, all those in favor of the original revision, why don't you go ahead and read that?
Yes, Mr. President. The original motion is, I move to approve and adopt board policies FD local and FM local.
All those in favor? 0. All those against?
I'm sorry,
Or all
I'm
those-
confused.
all those-
All those. The motion is to opt out, right? Is what-
Right. The motion is to opt out.
Okay.
Read that motion again. Read that motion one more time,
Yes, Mr. President.
please.
I move to approve and adopt board policies FD local and FM local.
And those revisions to that board policy would be to opt out of allowing non-enrolled student participation.
Right. And a yes vote means you want to opt out. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of opting out? All those in favor?
We're both, the motion should have it in there.
Policies.
Okay.
That's what the policy
The
says.
two, the stand,
Your microphone's not on.
oh, I'm sorry, my microphone's on.
There you go. Or maybe talk a little closer to it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Say that again? What did you say?
The motion's in the policy.
That's correct. So
The motion is the policies.
we're revising our policy, Mrs. Shaw, to opt out. So voting
Yes.
in favor.
Yeah, that's what we want, yes.
Then raise your
Okay.
hand when you say.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know if we
it's
were
okay.
carrying
I
the
know,
motion.
clarity.
mean,
I get it. I get it.
Making sure
No.
we're,
Understand, Mrs. Shaw.
making sure.
All right, so I'll read, all those in favor of opting out, please raise your hand. All those in favor? All those in favor of opting out? Okay. That's 3. All those against opting out? Abstentions? 2. All right. So the motion passes 3 in favor, 0 against, and 2 abstentions.
One
Oh, I'm
against.
sorry. Oscar, what did you vote? You voted against. 3-1-2. 3-1-2. right. So, moving on to our next agenda item, action item 3A, consider approving and adopting board policy FNCE local. Mr. Silva, do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. President. I move to approve, I'm sorry, I'm going to try that one more time. I move to approve board policy FNCE local.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Silva.
I just want to give a quick thank you to Dr. Brown, I think Mr. Perkins. I don't know who all was involved in replying to my innumerable questions about this. So I just want to thank you all for all the work that you all put into it and to your principals that spoke in the last board meeting as well. That was really helpful as I was thinking through this.
Yes, Mr. Scarfo.
Just one thing, I don't know what happened to my mic all of a sudden, but I won't touch it. Mr. Perkins, thanks very much for your detailed answers. I hope that I wasn't too much of a pain in the, you know what, but they were questions, and thank you for helping me understand some of the things. Still don't like the purse and pocket thing, but that's okay. I'll defer to you guys. We'll see how it works out. I just wondered, I don't think Mr. Cummings' room, is there any way that we can block Wi-Fi signal in restrooms and limit it to just that area? I know you can do an entire building. And I don't know what the cost is, but that's something we ought to maybe look at. Oh, there he is. I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Chris. Is that even possible to do just a small area like that? Okay, and if it's not, you don't even have to walk up there. I get it. I just wondered. I wondered about that because I talked to Dr. Brown and he didn't know either. So thank you, Chris. That answers that question. But thanks for all the work. Really, really great, and ready to vote.
Yes, Mr. Grabowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say thank you all as well for all the amazing work. And Mr. Perkins, I know I'm reiterating, but your letter was in particularly explanatory of many of the thought process that went into the results that we got to read that you all like. You have your hands cut out for you. My wife and I the other night went to Jeremiah's for ice cream around 10 o'clock, and there was two groups of one group of middle schoolers, one group of high schoolers, and I got ID'd by somebody, and somebody came up to me and said, "Yeah, well, how are you going to get it out of my hands in the restroom stall?" So the games are on, and good luck. And but I think what you've come up with is an amazing, comprehensive plan. And thank you for all your. You know, they're conniving. They're out to beat you. You know, some of them. Most of them are going to be very compliant. But thank you for all your work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Shaw.
No, thank you for answering all of our questions. I think you guys have been great in getting all the data back. I will just, I've harped on this at the last board meeting, I'll harp on it again, is just communicate. I know some people believe that parents need to look at everything, but they have a lot of communications coming to them, and we're rolling this out within 2 weeks of school starting, and there's so much going on. So whatever we can do to make that discipline policy and the understanding that this is state law. This is not law made by the board, not law made by the administration. It's what's coming down from the state, and we are rolling this out for them. So appreciate you guys. I do also have high schoolers that are, all yelling at me at my house. So.
All right. Let's vote. All those in favor? All right. The vote passes. 6 in favor, 0 against. Of course, Ms. Perkins is not here. All right. Moving on to item 3C. Are we good, Ms. Martin? Going to move forward? All right. Consider and approve audit of 2022 bond program. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. President. I move to approve and direct the internal auditor and board audit committee to lead an external audit of the Humble ISD 2022 bond program.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, motion passes. 6 in favor. The time is now 1:17. This meeting is adjourned.